Good afternoon, everyone. This is the nichebot live call-in show, and this is the place where you get the intervention you need to blow right past those obstacles that stand in your way. I know what I'm talking about because I've had those obstacles, and it took me years to overcome them. Now, real quickly, I am your host and founder of nichebot X since 2004. And if you have any trouble at all hearing me or I'm fading in and out, please let me know in the question box over to your right-hand side. That is a dialog box so that you can interact live with us as the show moves forward. Now, let me tell you real quickly why I created the show for gold and platinum users. And that's one because, I know us men are very, very well known for this, and we tend to blow right past all of the training material, the manual. You know how that is. We just get that gadget or whatever out, and we just start using it. Heck with reading the instruction guide. So as a natural cause, I think a lot of people blow right past the quick start guide. And this is really a great place to get out and be able to interact and overcome what's keeping you from getting to where you want to go. Progress. Whenever we're stagnated from progress, we get frustrated. So the other thing is content is customized towards you every week rather than content just being thrown at you to distract you from what your main focus is or should be. We customize the content here live on the call. So this show is really, truly about getting clarity and having breakthroughs. Now, breakthroughs don't come necessarily with a single use of something, and there's no real push-button success, at least I haven't found. And the breakthroughs come really with repeated exposure to techniques that work. That means you constantly exposing yourself to repeated attempts at learning a software, whatever, doing a technique, whatever it may be, and taking the steps required to actually become proficient at something. And that's really kind of what we're about is in a long-term strategy is you want to become proficient in a number of different techniques nowadays, because otherwise it's really hard to be able to source everything. Otherwise you'd spend all your money and have loans out to everyone to hire out services for some of the stuff you got to do. So there will be a replay of the show from the live show directory as you see there, and you should also share in my epiphany, and that epiphany really came in 2004 when I discovered the power of backlinks and using that all-important keyword phrase in the hyperlink. And that's what you should be doing here at nichebot, and that is getting your keyword phrases that you are putting in the hyperlinks, in the backlinks pointing at your site. Now, it wasn't until I actually understood that using the keyword phrase in the hyperlink that you have in content that you distribute throughout the net is so powerful that it actually influences the search engines to give you top rankings and thus give you a lot of organic traffic that you would normally have to pay for on Google's AdWords. I'm talking about getting organic listings that give you free visitors. And now I used reciprocal linking way back when, and I use a lot of different techniques now because a lot of things have changed since 2005, but I used reciprocal linking back in the days to get nichebot and other sites very quickly indexed and get high rankings. Now, you should find whatever style of inbound links suits you, and the way to do that is, first of all, to understand that getting inbound links, while the content on your page is extremely important, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people focus on keyword density and they get over analytical when they should be writing for their visitors. But once you get done with your content, you can only do so much for it or massage it so many ways to get higher and higher points to get top rankings for Google. And the way to get top rankings and beat out the top site is to get more inbound links. The guy with the most inbound links or the gal with the most inbound links wins. That's basically what it comes down to. So you could go ahead and type how to build links 2009. There's an article in Google where you can get, it talks about additional ways to get backlinks. There are so many different ways to get backlinks, your head can literally spin. Point is to pick one thing and master it. So this show is really about getting clarity and breakthroughs. So how are we going to get those breakthroughs? It's got to be through interaction on the line. And so let's go over real quickly the ground rules for the call. So you do have right now over to your right-hand side, everyone right now is muted, but you do have a dialog box over to your right-hand side. And over to your right-hand side, you could type in a question and be able to interact with us and let us know if you want to discuss a particular issue. And if you have a site you want to review, we can do that as well. Just go ahead and ask a question anytime during this webinar through your panel over to your right-hand side, and we'll go ahead and make sure to get that taken care of. Now, go ahead, if you want to interact further, and type live chat in front of the question if you want to interact. So I can unmute you, and we can go ahead and go through a little process of discovery. So I have to uncover certain things, but I will go from about 60 to 90 minutes depending on the number of questions and, of course, my energy. So this is the part of the show where we get into that live interaction, and we're going to go ahead and do that, and you can start entering your questions over to the right-hand side if you need anything. However, in the meantime, as you're thinking about your questions, go ahead and enter them over to the right-hand side. But in the meantime, I'm going to start talking about our hot topic of the week, and that is about, you know, the importance of content, but not just how the content that you write and the quality of it, but we're going to be talking about the importance of continuity. Continuity as in having a flow, having a process, having a sales process, and what it ultimately comes down to really is having a sales process. How do you take your visitors from being casual onlookers to getting them either to take action now, which 98% of them won't, to then eventually getting them to take action? And that takes email follow-up, and that's the only way, really, other way to do it. But we're going to talk about the continuity of what it takes to lead up to that point before you actually make the offer or get them on some sort of an email list. So in the meantime, you can go ahead and put in your questions over to the right-hand side. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. We can go ahead and go through all of the material that I'm going to go through right now in stream of consciousness. It's just flowing out of me. So we're going to go through all that and talk about exactly what I was discussing, which is continuity in your content. And that's not just content on your site, but content off your site. And we want to talk about the different modes and the different perspectives that people have online when they are visiting or surfing or on a social network platform, etc. So again, go ahead and put your questions in if you have any right now. We will tackle that after the hot topic. And if you have any questions about our hot topic, then you also want to go ahead and do that too. But go ahead and submit your questions now, and we will go ahead and get started right now with the hot topic. I'm going to go ahead, though, however, and wet my lips a little bit because this is going to be a little long-winded. And I'm going to need some extra hydration there for me to be able to get entirely through this without having to take another water break. So let's talk about continuity. Continuity in your content, whether it's on your site or distributed throughout the internet. And distributed throughout the internet is a very loose-fitting term. And the reason for that is that your content can have multiple different modes. And that's what's really important to understand, because once you understand the multiple different modes, you then understand that your distribution level, your ability to distribute your content, becomes a much wider scope, and you start filling up what I call this cloud within your industry. Because I think there's this entire cloud in your industry, and a lot of other people are occupying that cloud with their content, their articles, their podcasts, their this and their that. So let's talk about the different modes of media. Because, see, your article can take the shape of many different things. You could have an article or a discussion on why how to pick a certain brand of dishwasher. Say you represent a company or you sell dishwashers, whatever. I just want to take a random off-the-topic thing. But you could take an article that you write about dishwashers and the 10 steps to selecting the top-notch dishwasher that you've always wanted. Well, you could take that media, and just like on this particular webinar, we're using video, screen capture, as well as audio. So you can not only take your article that is written content, but then take that, produce that into an audio, which is much more appealing, much more engaging. People now hear your voice, they can connect with you, that sort of thing. You now have the ability to promote that and send that to different podcasts all over the place and get backlinks to your site. Again, wider distribution, more ability for people to find you. You can make it a video, you can then post it on YouTube, you can post it on probably 30 to 35 other video sites. You're now getting more distribution. Now, a lot of people at this point would be saying, well, that's great, but a lot of these sites allow you to put a link in there, but it's a no-follow link. Well, what that means is a no-follow link means that if Google's robot that crawls the net follows that link, will not give you credit for it if it's a no-follow link. Well, you may not get credit for it, but it's still there in the eyes of Google, and these sites and these links coming back to your site do matter. They may not matter overall right now in getting credit as a backlink to your site, but I'm telling you that Google notices that you've got content that you're distributing on all different types of sites. This is what's now called covering and engaging and occupying the space of that cloud that others are occupying in your industry. And you basically want to come and take your content and blow it up into multiple different modes. You know, it could be a press release, it could be an article, a video, a podcast. You could turn it into a show. You could turn it into multiple articles that you just distribute all over the net that lead to your website. So there's so many things you can do with your content. You've got to leverage the multiple different modes that are going on that you can take your content from. So that really is something that is going to leverage you when you get with that understanding. And a lot of it I know can be overwhelming at first, even just coming in and being able to create a website, but this is the way that you're able to literally take over a presence in your industry and build one very, very fast. And it's through using these multiple modes that you can now distribute through. As I was talking earlier, reciprocal linking, while it was popular in 2005, people tended to overuse it. Not as many people responding, not as many business people responding to it, because you contact other business owners on the web. But you have to, you have to change with the times and be able to use other methods. But the backlinking is, like I say, it is so powerful. If you have not yet submitted any questions, or you don't have any issues to go over, that's fine. You don't need to submit any questions, but now's the time to get your questions in. If there are no questions, we'll just go ahead and wrap the show up and talk about our continuity of content and continue on with the discussion. So you want to make sure, if you have a particular scenario, and if I could kind of pique your imagination a little bit, I know some people get really shy, and we have a number of different listeners that don't like to engage, and that's perfectly fine. We have a quiet crowd today. But if you can think of a scenario right now in your mind that's kind of holding you back, or you're not particularly clear on a particular promotional tactic, you can enter that in, or you want to have a particular page looked at to see if it really works as a potentially well-converting page. Because it's like anything. it's one thing to get traffic, it's another thing to get visitors on our site. Getting visitors on our site and then getting them to take the kind of action we want them to take. Obviously, we want it to be a profitable action. So let's continue talking about continuity of content, because we've now introduced all the different modes of how to take your content and repurpose it to literally build a cloud. You could build a cloud just around a particular keyword phrase and literally own that keyword phrase, and literally own the first page if you wanted to, if you have enough chutzpah to be able to turn your content into other media, if you will. And you don't even really need to create video where you have to appear on camera. You can, it could just be like captions, just words with music, background music going in the background. So let's get down to continuity. So continuity is, I think, where a lot of people miss the boat, and when they're producing their content, whether it's text, audio, video, they're not really taking into account a very, very important factor. They're going, oh great, I can just get this video up and I'll get all this traffic that was promised to me, and then they realize, oh, you don't get all that traffic. It takes time to build up the traffic. So excuse me, I do need to actually take a quick sip of my drink. So a lot of people get really, really thrilled about putting their YouTube videos up or whatever, wherever they're posting their videos, and they post them like 30, 35 places. They're using Traffic Geyser or whatever they're using to get them up with, and they don't get the right response. Well, okay, the question is, did they create their content with the whole bit of continuity in mind? And that's very important to realize and to take into consideration. So what do I mean by the continuity? Well, I believe, and I structure all of my websites and all of my offers and whatever it is whatever message I'm trying to get across, I don't ever stop with, unless it's just an article or some piece of content that I want to build credibility with, I want to move you along and either get your name and email address at the bottom of the form, and if you're a brand new visitor, obviously I should have an email form there for you to be able to join my list. But I want to move you on to another action, whether it's get you on an email list or to move you along to the next part of a potential sales process. So first is more informational, and if someone wants to order from that page, there's going to be a particular continuity. I'm going to say, click here to order, or I'm going to say, find out more about what you can do to solve this problem. So there is constantly continuity going on until I've got a particular result achieved. So on a video, so let's talk about continuity from a video, because the thing is we can't treat everything the same, okay? There is, in a video, you can have down at the bottom or anywhere in an inconspicuous way have the website of where you want to direct traffic at. You want to make sure to have it also in the description. When people read, they're going to read the description of your video, and I see a lot of people using zero, not a description. That is the worst thing possible, because that data is the only way a search engine can tell what your video is about. And if you only have a sentence in your description, I mean, come on, that's not very descriptive, is it? So that's what's really, really important is, one, we've got to make sure to give our video submissions context. We want to make sure to have our video titles to have powerful keywords that we're looking to aim and shoot for, because these videos will, some of the videos will get ranked pretty high on the search engines for long tail keyword phrases. Those are phrases with 3, 4, and 5 keyword phrases. And we want to make sure to have a very good, rich description, names, people, sites. You want to make sure to have an HTTP : with your site name, where you want to direct the traffic, where they can get more information, where they can find you on Twitter. These are the things you want to build in there to get people moving on from your video to where you want to get them. These are really videos, audios, your content. That's all just sort of a flycatcher to move them along to the place, the intended place you want to get them. So in an article, obviously, we have in an article that we might submit to the search engines, or to the article directories, I should say, because we're not doing them to the search engines, but they do end up getting indexed. The articles we want to submit are going to have a different type of attitude. We're going to make sure to give some value in the article. More people are willing to read for a longer time. So you can have a 500 to an 800 word article, and that's going to have a totally different flavor than the video will, because the video, we want to get stuff across quickly. We want to get it across within 45 seconds to a minute, and keep it at most to 2 to 3 minutes. And then get them moving on. That's all it is, because the video generation is like, give it to me fast, give it to me quick, and then move along. So an article is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have value in it. But what I try to do with my articles is I tend to take my article, I take a piece of content from my site, and then I say, how can I turn this into a 5 ways to, or 10 ways, or 7 ways, or 7 promises, or 7 ways to avoid this mistake. How can I turn it into some really good, short, but powerful bait content that I could distribute on the net, that other people would be proud to distribute on their site, and might get ranked high on search engines, and then people follow along to my site. Well, I make that content, obviously I'm making that content to be able to get someone to a specific page on my site. Well, I want to make sure that I'm not giving everything away in my article that I'm going to distribute out there, and I want to make sure that the conversation continues to where I'm sending them. And this is why I think a lot of people who are sending people directly to the main page of their site from their video are making a huge mistake. You should send people to an internal page that talks exactly about your video, that talks exactly about what you need to do, what your visitor needs to do to get more information on the topic. Okay, they need to really be moved along from the video, whereas you're going to have to nurture them a little bit in an article content. So that's an article content. And then you've got the other aspect, which is going to be an audio podcast, taking your content, taking your written content. And so just to clarify again, we're going to go back and talk real quickly about the article. We're going to make sure to have a conversational 10 ways, 5 ways, however many ways you can come up with, something with a number in it that's going to give a certain number of tips, tricks, secrets, whatever it may be, to get the person's attention at first and read the article. 500 to 800 words. And your page that you send them to is either going to be a further solution to what that article is about, and because obviously you're taking your original content anyways, if you have any right now, and you are going to basically write some derivative content from that article on your site. Now, preferably, you want to have a little bit longer article on your site and a shorter one that you distribute, 500 to 800 words. Now, I personally have a hard time with writing articles less than 3,000 words. So for me, it's kind of easy, but it depends on your depth of knowledge on a particular topic. And if you need help, then obviously you should outsource, because outsourcing can work, and there are people that are standing by that are college graduates that are willing to work for really cheap in the Philippines. So, so your article really should be also a tease of what is to come. And so this is the part of the discussion where I talk about this, sort of relation to how you can use the web very much like TV uses us. Now, I'm sure you've been tuned into a TV show, right? And what do they do to us on these TV shows? I mean, some of them that they get us, I mean, well, we already know that Survivor has their process down to a science and getting us and locking us in and making us watch to the next show. And really it all comes down to we all see this happen, but and this is now basically all become an acceptable practice to condition us. Because think about it. Now, I don't know where, if you have this particular fast food restaurant in your town, but if I go anywhere around the world, I go da-da-da-da-da, most people will say, I'm loving it, because that's how McDonald's has conditioned us with playing over and over and over us. Well, what am I talking about on TV is these series, these shows where they constantly have us wrapped around their fingers waiting for the next show. Well, what do? They show us episodes or scenes from the next thing. Well, how can we use that in our content, in our article distribution, where we're putting tasty bits of powerful short tips out there, and how do we get people to want more? Well, we got to let them know about wanting more, so we have to have some sort of a teaser in there. And on the site down below, see, some of the problems or some of the rules of distributing content out there is you can't necessarily, in article content, you can't bring up your site name in the middle of it. You can bring up just referring down below. And from the site below, you'll be able to find even more solutions to this problem. So you could say this, you could prep someone in the middle of the article or in the beginning, which is even best, because you let them know something is to come. And they do this to us all the time on the TV. They do this on the TV to get us not only through the entire show, but they really, one of the focus of when they're producing a show on TV is to get us from one segment to the next, because they don't want to lose us. They want to build a cliffhanger until the next commercial. So they literally want us to stay on TV through that commercial, so we're watching it, so we make sure we don't miss out. That's all built in there. And we gladly, as human beings, we accept this as the conditioning that they have done. The problem is us as business owners don't necessarily have we aren't consciously aware of what's going on, so we don't necessarily use this stuff in our own business. And what this does is we want to basically hook people. We want to be able to develop a relationship with not necessarily having to be there to be present in a relationship with them. But see, I have a relationship with thousands of subscribers around the world who open my emails that get sent to them about whatever topic we're talking about that week. Kind of lost my point there, but either way, we were talking about basically developing this relationship, and there is a way to have a relationship with people, because you don't necessarily have to have the other person talking back. In an email marketing relationship, it's sort of like you constantly having this conversation with someone who's doesn't necessarily have the ability to speak back. But what's really cool is they could speak back. They can just hit the reply button and then comment back, hey Jim, loved it, blah, 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 or whatever, or however you set up a way for them to comment. So we talked about this continuity, so I'm hoping that by explaining how those TV people work, and they do this obviously for us to make sure that they get the viewership for their commercial purchases that are happy with their audience. So obviously their advertisers want people to be sitting there to watch the commercials, so those commercial people can condition the people to buy their products. So we need to make sure to use this understanding. So it's very simple to integrate into your articles. You could do this into your videos by, we already talked about the articles and how you do that by doing a little tease of what's to come. You could do this in your copy, in your the way you shoot your videos, by finding out more information on this topic by clicking here. And I think the format for the video is simple. You really kind of need to either get a quick tip across, or you need to find a way to address a problem. You know, if you've got ants or roaches or pests in your house, I've got the solution for you that you need to hear about. And so there you're addressing, you got to make sure, I think the most important thing is addressing people that have problems or that are commonly buying certain things. So, but the continuity comes in, you've got to get them from that thing, because I really don't think that your content that's distributed out there, and you're not only doing this for search engine power, but you're doing this for also, because this stuff will attract leads. People also take these articles or content and they put it on their own site because they're looking for content on their own site. But you're getting these people and they're coming through and they're moving along to a place where you're actually getting them engaged with your site. You can't necessarily sell them right there on the article, and I don't suggest you do. I think most people are foolish by sending people to a sales letter, where you should send them to a place to pick up a bribe of some sort, a free report, a white paper, something of that line, along those lines, and move them along from there. You now have a right to contact them through email, and now you can baby steps get in touch with them, get them feeling and knowing what you're about, cement that relationship in the first 7 days, and they're going to be much more highly suggestible to buy from you on a comfortability level than they were in the first part. That's why a lot of people use these opt-in pages, these pages where there is an email subscription form with a name and email address, so you can contact the person, send them whatever it is you're offering, and then be able to follow up with them and offer and recommend other things or services you may have or products. But now most people, and what's very interesting is 80 to 85% of the people will stay on your list and will continue to receive happily updates, newsletter alerts, special offers, that sort of stuff from you, and will be more than happy to stay on your list. You now have actually a point of contact to be able to you have a database, an actual, I would say it's an asset. You can actually even, it becomes a valuable asset in your business. But this now gives you a way to break past the trying to get married on the first date by having someone buy from you on the first day. You know, it just doesn't happen that way, and you can multiply your sales by 5, 6, 7 times by contacting your people, having a set number of messages going out for over a certain number of days, and that moves the person along even further. So everything is about a continuity of continuing that discussion, but not just continuing the discussion on the page that is being referred to in the backlink, in the bio box, in the description of the video. We've talked about all the different modes, but we not only want to get that person from there, we want to make sure that we're teasing them along the way so that they know there is continuity, so that we're building actual anticipation for them, not just necessarily just giving them just content. We want to make sure that they know there's going to be more information, that they're going to read about it below. And in the author bio box is where you tell them where they can get more information, and that's where you can actually drop your own links in there. And usually most services only allow you 2 self-serving links. So you can actually send people to 2 different pages, and that's absolutely what I recommend. But the whole point is you want to make sure to tempt them and tease them along the way, just like our TV show people that ruin our lives by taking up our time with all taking up our time by making us watch their show. You know, I mean, they're really twisting our elbows. Of course, obviously, it's all our own choice. But what I'm saying is they use so many psychological triggers on these shows that I'm telling you, you've got to use these as well if you're going to really truly succeed and really have what I call a high response rate, and that is getting more than just 1 or 2% of people taking action or buying something from you, but you're getting more than that, like 7, 8, 9, 10%, where people actually trust you, and you've got, like I say, you're forming a relationship with them even though they're not sitting there having a conversation with you. They read your stuff, they get comfortable with you, and then they're more susceptible to actually having, taking a profitable action, buying a product you recommend, that sort of thing, or buying your services, products or services that you have at your site. People want to hear from you more than once. They don't want to feel like they're just a hit and run, if you know what I'm saying. So having the continuity and bringing it up, so very important. So a lot of this is planning this out in advance. So it's a little bit taking it a little bit further than just planning out the content. You got to plan out the content, but you got to make sure that it syncs with the page you're sending the visitors to. You got to make sure there's some sort of an action on the page that people are going to be hitting from the actual article, content, video, podcast, audio podcast, whatever it may be. Social bookmarking, it doesn't matter where this stuff is getting distributed to, but you always want to ask your question, am I putting some information that tells clearly this person that's going to make them want to click over and find out the information that I'm revealing in this submission? You may have a shorter place to submit your stuff where it's going to be into a news feed. It could be into dig.com or delicious.com. You're going to have a shorter thing. So you constantly want to think about, you're not just going to map out what content you're going to do. You're going to take it now a step further. And you're going to say, how can I connect this content that I create to and make it really highly relevant to the page that I'm sending people to? And how can I tease the person within the content to let them know that there's more than just what's in this video and to urge them to move on? Because we don't want to keep the person in the same state and the same place that they're at. We want to constantly move them along. Even if I'm talking about, even if that's within your own site, you want to just keep moving people along. If they get to the bottom of your page, you should have some sort of instructions at the bottom of your page that tells them to move on. So I hope that was made clear. I see that we have no questions today, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. Hang tight. I'm going to turn on the wrap-up. And every Wednesday, not at 11 a.m., but at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do have to change that. I thought I had changed that and popped this over. Apparently it didn't take shape or didn't change, but you need to tune in here to overcome your obstacles and start having more and more breakthroughs. And the way we do that is you go ahead and review that quick start guide. There's some proper foundational materials in there and some extra goodies and content as well. You want to incorporate one way of building backlinks to your site, and you want to jot down your questions and save them for the show, because that's the most important. We're going to decide, make sure before you get on the call, you decide whether you wish to share the URL with the group, because this is a sort of group coaching, group webinar situation. And then, of course, explain your situation in detail with specifics so I can envision the problem. We're, of course, going to have a hot topic every time, just as I just did right now, and sort of had a little fly-off-the-handle 40-minute discussion. So when you get on the call, the more information you give in return, the more clarity I can give you back in return. And that's what I'm here to help you do, is to move forward. However, I do need your help, and the more specific you can be, the more helpful that's going to be to you. I want to welcome you. I want to make sure to thank you for taking your time out for attending today's live show, and we'll make sure to see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.